Before I go anywhere near creating a local file, I just want to run through some of the settings that we need to put in place before using your local files. Click on the Application button and click on Options. At this point, I have a username, and by default this is defined as the user login. I'll also want to look at the file locations. Here you can see there's a default path for user files. I'm going to change this and call this local Revit files, a folder I've already created on my C drive. So with that set, I can now click on Open and browse for the central file that I created earlier. There's my Chapter 19 Work Sharing Central file, and as I highlight it, notice that we have a check adjacent to Create New Local. What happens here is that when I click on Open, Revit will take a copy of the Chapter 19 Work Sharing Central file, place it into my local Revit folder, and append my username to it. So let's see that in action. Click on Open, and there's the file that's been copied. This is without doubt the safest way of creating local files. And you'll now see up on the Quick Access toolbar, I have the ability to save the local file and to synchronize with the central file. Notice the arrow adjacent to the synchronize. Here I can define whether I only want to synchronize or synchronize and modify the settings. In this dialog box we can also verify the location of the central file. Choose whether we want to save the local file additionally and make a comment on the file, my first save, and click on OK. Let's take a look at another couple of ways that we can create our local files. I'll start by closing my local file. From Windows Explorer, I'll select my central file, copy it, and paste it to my local directory. If I now go and open this file, and I'll browse to my local Revit folders, there's the file I've just copied. Notice how the Create New Local box is totally greyed out. I'll click on Open anyway. We now have a Revit warning message. It says this central model has been moved or copied from this location to my local Revit files location. If you want this file to remain a central model, resave the file as a central model. It gives you instructions on how to make it a central model. But the last sentence is the most important. It says here, if you do not save the file as a central model, it becomes a local user copy belonging to user Simon W. Well, that's what I want. So I'll click Close, and Revit will continue to open the file. Unless I had actually renamed this file during the copy and paste process, I'm now not sure whether I've got the central file open or not. Or am I? Up on the Quick Access toolbar, I've got the two buttons for Save to my local and Save to Central, where we can once again verify the location of the central model. For local files, however, it is a recognised best practice to have something like a username appended to the end of the file. Let's close the file again and explore the last way of creating a local file. From the Startup screen, click on Open. Browse to your project folder, select the central file and uncheck Create New Local. Click on Open and immediately click on the Application button, Save As, and then Project. Browse to your local Revit folder and give the file an appropriate name. So I'll now close this file, I'll synchronize with Central. And before we end this particular video, I can almost hear people saying, well, I can see my Chapter 19 Work Sharing Central in Windows Explorer. Why go through all the hassle of clicking on Open and browsing to the file? Why not just browse to the file in my Windows Explorer and click on it and open it from here? Well, you could do, but, and here's the big one, if you use this workflow and you're working on a large model that takes a few minutes to open, there's a possibility that you're going to go away and make a cup of coffee or tea and then come back and start work. In the meantime, you've forgotten to come up here and click on Save As. So you'll come back to your workstation, start working, and completely forget that you've done the Save As. Meanwhile, several other people are also working on the file. If you've been working away for half an hour, and so have they, and they've been synchronizing with Central, and all of a sudden you click on this button, the Synchronize and Modify Settings, there's every chance that you're going to overwrite their work. So whatever your work processes have been in the past, with using Windows Explorer to open files, it's highly recommended that you don't use it when working with Revit MEP.